Hello there, welcome to today's workout. Thanks so much for joining me, for making time in your day for this movement. I know you'll feel so much better afterwards. Today, all you need is yourself, your mat, and a little bit of space. Let's get right into it. We're gonna come down to the end of the mat here and just start with some nice breathing, getting the body warmed up and moving before we get the abdominals working and move into a few different exercises. Let's just bring the arms down in front, bending the knees slightly, reaching up towards the sky as we inhale, folding over as we exhale. Inhale, reaching high towards the roof or the sky, wherever you may be. Exhaling, inhale, pressing through the heels as we extend the legs and reach up high, and exhale. Let's go for one more, and exhale. As we exhale here, let's gently roll the body forward, one vertebrae at a time, allowing the arms to come down in front towards the mat. If you need to bend the knees on your way down, please do. Everyone's flexibility is different. At the bottom here, let's just hold here for a moment. Let the back relax. You might find that you want to do a bit of swaying side to side, if that feels good for you. Otherwise, you can bend one knee at a time. Just stretch through the back of the legs here, the hamstrings into the calf muscles. Swaying from side to side. Let's stay here for 3 more seconds. And 1. We're gonna stay here, keeping the hips up, sit bones facing up towards the roof. We're gently gonna walk our hands out into a plank position. Nicely done. Hips drop down, nice and level into that plank position. Now hips lift up towards the sky into a pike as we bring our arms, hands back in towards the feet. If you need to bend your knees as we do this because you don't have that flexibility, that's fine, but still trying to keep the abdominals engaged. So we're drawing the belly button into the spine as we walk the hands out and in, tucking the core up. Nicely done. Let's go for one more here. Nice work. Let's hang out in this plank position for a moment. Shoulders pressed up towards the roof, belly button in towards the spine. Bottom is tucked under, body is in one nice long line. Pressing back to bend the knees, straightening the arms, pressing forward into plank. Nice powerful movement. Bending the knees, weight shifts back onto the feet, pressing forward again. Stay with me here. Bending the knees, pressing forward. If you need to rest the knees down in between for a rest, that's fine. Otherwise, keeping the knees elevated as we move through here. Inhale to bend, exhale to come back to plank into that powerful movement. Drawing that belly in towards the spine, keeping the body nice and strong. For 2 more. Nicely done. 1 more. Let's stay here. We're going to drop the knees down to the mat to tap and lifting back up. Just for 10. 8, 7, stay strong. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Pressing back into that A-frame downward dog position. Give the shoulders a quick bit of a rest. Nice work. Let's stay here. Drawing one leg up off the mat, nice and straight behind us, up towards the sky. Keeping the body in one nice long line. We're reaching forward, bringing that knee in towards chest for a mountain climber. Push back, leg goes long, body long. Rolling forward into that mountain climber. Let's make that a little bit more fluid now. Pick up the pace a bit. Extending back, rolling forward. Using the breath. If this is too much for you, staying in plank and doing that traditional mountain climber. So just bringing one knee in at a time. Otherwise, we're pushing back into extension. For 2 more. Last one. And swapping legs. Other leg draws up. Coming into mountain climber. Pressing back to downward dog A-frame. Coming in. Stay with me. Pick up the pace if you can, make it nice and fluid. Still focusing on that abdominal control. Belly button draws in towards the spine. For 3 more. Last one. Dropping down. Coming back to plank, knees drop down. Let's press back for a quick little rest for those shoulders. Into that child's pose position. Knees come out nice and wide, reaching the arms long. Have a couple of big breaths here. You might find just shifting the weight side to side, dropping one shoulder at a time feels good. Nice work, reaching along, pressing the hands forward. When you're ready, coming back into that 4-point position, we've got a little bit more work to do on our shoulders and on our core muscles. So knees underneath the hips, hands underneath the shoulders. Elbows are nice and soft. Chest is pressed away, engaging those scapular muscles, the muscles around the shoulder blade. From here, we are pressing through the hands, keeping that belly button drawn in towards the spine to engage the core, lifting through the toes to lift the knees up off the mat into that hover position and lowering back down. We're just doing some lifts and lower. Once we get used to the movement, we're going to add in a few little things. As always, you can stay with this first movement. Otherwise, try to challenge yourself, see how you go. We can always come back to this one. So press, engage the core, lift those knees, and lowering down. On this next one, if you're with me, let's stay up. Little quick taps of the knees on the mat. Keeping the shoulders strong. Doing well. Core's engaged. Body's one nice long line. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's hold at the top for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nicely done. Knees come down. Well played. Got a little bit more work to do. Small breath in or big breath in. As you recover, blowing out. As we inhale this time, knees come up, holding at the top here. Taking the knees apart and back together. Just for 10 here. So abducting here, squeezing through those muscles on the outside of the hips here. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nicely done. Press back into that A-frame position, walking the legs back a little bit, and just stretch through the shoulders here. You can also bend one knee at a time. Stretch out through those calf muscles, really pressing into that movement. As we come back to plank here, we're going to shift our feet to point sideways. So working into the obliques a little bit now with that same movement we started with. So we're bending the knees. This time the knees go on a sideways angle and then pressing forward over the hands. Bend the knees, pressing forwards. This is going to work into those abdominal muscles, the obliques a little bit more. Try to keep the body centered between the hands. The chest is still obviously facing down towards the mat, but our lower half is twisted to engage those obliques a bit more. For 5. Feel the burn through the shoulders. 3, 2, and 1. Pressing back for a moment as we swap sides. So knees now to the other direction and straightening. Bending, straightening. Really focus on keeping that core in one straight line, rib to hip connection. We're pressing the bottom back. We're not letting the bottom go up towards the sky. We're staying in one long line. For 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew. Back to center. Drop the knees. Let's come back to sit on the heels. Roll the shoulders back a few times. Mine are tired today. And forwards a couple of times. Just bringing the hands behind the back here. Interlocking the fingers. Let's draw back, rotating the hands, opening up through the chest here, stretching through those pec muscles and the front of the shoulders, the anterior delt muscles. The more you lift up your hands towards your head, the more you should feel that stretch. But we're keeping the core engaged. We're not arching through the back or bending through the back. We're just here for a couple more breaths. One more breath. Bringing the hands back down, releasing. Give the arms a little bit of a shake here. Let's press up onto the knees. Finding the knees underneath the hips here. Tucking the bottom in slightly so we've gently engaged our glutes. Core is engaged, ribs down towards the hip, drawing the belly button in towards the spine. Let's bring the arms out in front. Slowly lowering back, squeezing to return. So this quads lean back. As we lean back, we're keeping the body in one nice long straight line. Not allowing the back to bend. We're keeping that rib to hip connection really strong and just working through the quadricep muscles here. Only going as far back as you can control. As soon as you start to feel like you're losing that core or back position, please return back up to center. Using the breath. I like to inhale to lower
Exhale to return back up. You might find that the other way works better for you. The key thing is that you're not holding your breath. Making sure the shoulders are staying down and back, relaxed, not creeping up towards the ears. We've got a few more here. Stay with me. Going a little bit further back if you can, if you want to challenge yourself. Again, if you're starting to lose that core position, just come back to that smaller movement. Let's go for 2 more here. 1 more. Coming back up to center. Let's challenge this a little bit more if you're with me. Otherwise, staying with that movement, or you can even come back down to dropping the bottom, lifting up if you need a rest as well. Otherwise, hands in front again. We're coming back, arms lift and lower, return. This one's a challenge. As you lift the arms up, the ribs are going to want to open up, but you have to keep them connected to the hips. So it takes a lot of concentration, a lot of rib to hip connection. If you can't take the arms all the way up above, only doing it a small amount. We're not here for long, we've just got a couple to work these quads a little bit more and work the core. It's a good concentrating one. 2 more if you can. 1 more. Nicely done. Dropping the bottom down to the heels, squeezing to lift back up. So almost like you're squatting down on your heels. Keep the ribs connected to the hips. We don't want to be arching through the lower back here as we bend forward. We're just hinging at the hips and squeezing the hips forward again. So bending and extending at the hips here. Arms out in front for 3 more. Last one. Well done. Bringing the hands down to the mat again. Finding that 4-point kneel position once more. Hands are underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, shoulders pressed away, cores engaged, belly button in towards the spine. Let's lift 1 hand up at a time, reaching long and returning to center. Lifting, rest of the body stays nice and still as we lift and reach the hand forward and return to center. We're going to layer this a little bit, so you can always stay with this one if you need. Otherwise, let's do 2 more here. And let's add to this. So adding 1 leg at a time. You might want to bring the knees in a little bit closer so that when we shift, we're ending up with a more tripod position. So knees in a little bit narrower. Let's lift 1 arm and extend 1 leg at a time. So as you do this, really concentrating on the control of the core muscles, keeping the body stable and still, and then returning to center. Exhale as you reach everything long and return to center. So a lot of focus on that supporting shoulder staying pressed up, hips staying level. Both hip bones should still be facing down towards the mat. Belly button draws in towards the spine to keep the body nice and still, like a table, nice and flat. Stay with me if you can. Keep going. Really building that mind-body connection
With this one, lots of focus. Let's stay here for 2 more on each side. As you're extending the leg, making sure you're not losing that core control. We don't want the back to be arching here. So the leg doesn't have to go high, just in line with the body. All right, as we extend long on this one, let's stay here, hold for a moment, see if we can do some little pulses of the leg and the arm. Keeping your balance, just small little movements. Thinking about pressing away through the knee and the hand that's still on the mat. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Returning back. Swapping sides, same thing. Holding for a moment, and then let's find our way into those little pulses. Keeping that shoulder pressed away. Glute is nice squeezed. Pulse that leg up and down. Core is strong. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Returning back. Just dropping down through the chest here. Opening up through the neck. And then swapping directions. Neck drops down. Pressing up through the upper body here. Really arching through the back. Just move through that cat-cow in your own time. If you want to add a bit of a shift forwards and backwards, you can. Whatever feels good for you today. Dropping down again. Scooping through to arch and stretch through that thoracic spine. One more in either direction here. Pressing up. Coming back to that neutral position. Let's find our way down onto our forearms here. Knees are going to come in nice and narrow. In this forearm position, we're pressing the chest up away, so we're not relaxing down here. We're still keeping those shoulder muscles nice and active. Let's reach one leg nice and long, starting with the left leg. We still want the hips facing down towards the mat, so if you want to bring your knee more to center to keep yourself a bit more stable, please do. We're reaching this leg nice and long, tapping the mat, squeezing the bottom to lift. As we lift up, we're keeping that core strong. We're not arching through the back here, so we're keeping that rib to hip connection, belly button drawn in towards the spine. Working this lifting leg here, squeezing through the glutes and the hamstrings. As you squeeze and lift, as our body is on an angle because we're down on our forearms, you only want the leg to go as far up so that it matches the angle of the body. Doing well, working into that leg muscle here. Sorry, those leg muscles. Squeezing the glute max, which is the big bottom muscle, to extend the leg. For 5 more. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's stay at the top here for some pulses. Small little movements, really focusing on that bottom muscle, squeezing nice and strong. Should hopefully be starting to feel a bit of a burn here. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Staying here, taking the leg behind the other to tap that corner of the mat, arching up to tap the other corner. So really focusing on this rotation coming from the hip. The back isn't moving. We're keeping the core nice and strong. The rest of the body stays nice and still.
Just focusing on that rotation through the hip bone into this rainbow movement. So it's like you're drawing a rainbow, a big arc, or a semicircle, or a half moon, whatever you want to think of. Remembering to stay pressed up through the chest here. A little bit longer here. 5 more. 3, 2, and 1. Drawing that knee back in now. Let's keep it elevated, keeping the knee bent. We're going to rise the heel up towards the roof, bending back in. So still working into that glute muscle here. Trying to keep the hips level, facing down towards the mat. Just finishing off a bit of work into the glute here. So again, as we press the heel up towards the roof, making sure we're not arching through the back, only taking the leg up as far as we can control. Last little bit of work on this leg here. Big squeeze of those bottom muscles to lift. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Staying at the top for little pulses. Drive through the heel, just moving that hip up and down, small movements. Keep the control in the spine. Core stays engaged. 4, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drawing that in, nicely done, just resting back for a moment and then pressing forward. We've got the other leg to work. Let's get right into it. So again, bringing that knee that we've just, of the leg that we've just worked into center a little bit more so you've got some stability. Right leg now presses nice and long. We're starting with the tap and lift. So making sure the core's engaged, only taking the leg up so that it's in line with the body, following that angle. Squeezing through the glute muscles and the hamstrings. If at any point you're struggling with these, you can have a quick rest, shake it out. Join me again when you're ready. And you can always stay with just this tap and lift or come back to this if you're finding the pulses too difficult or any of the other layered exercises. So you should start to feel this working into that glute muscle, into the hamstrings as well. We've also been working our stabilizing glutes here. We're here for just a little bit longer, then we've got those pulses, just like the other side. 4, 3, 2, 1, let's pulse. Staying nice and long, pointing the toes, knee stays extended, squeezing the glute to pulse that leg up and down. Keeping that core controlled, ribs down towards the hips, belly stays connected in towards the spine. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We've got a rainbow, reaching behind to touch the corner of the mat, arching up, opposite corner. So really rotating that hip bone, rest of the body stays nice and still. Hopefully your shoulders are going okay. If they're not, you can drop them down for a moment, but pressing back up when you're ready. Really squeezing into that muscle. Doing well here. Focus on that rotation coming from the hip joint. The rest of the body staying nice and still. Just working those bottom muscles. We've got 3 more here. 2 and 1. And just like last time, we're coming back to center. You can readjust your arms if you need to. We're keeping the knee bent, pressing the heel up towards the roof. Staying with this last bit of work on those glute muscles. Using that breath. Exhale as you squeeze and lift up. Making sure the knee is staying at about a 90-degree angle. Really working into that glute, the top of the hamstring as well. We've got 5 more. Shoulders pressed away. 2 and 1. Pulses, you know it. Keeping both hips looking down towards the sky. Just small, down towards the floor, sorry. Small little movement of the hip to pulse that heel up and down. Stay with me, last bit. Keep that core control. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drawing both legs in, bringing the knees nice and wide. Let's move into that child's pose stretch again. Stretching the arms nice and long. Just working the breath here. Slowly walking the hands in to be by the face, pressing the chest up here. We're going to move into a pigeon stretch to finish off and just stretching out those glutes that we've just worked nice and hard. So extending one leg behind, other leg comes in towards that 90-degree position and then dropping down through the hips. So bringing the hips down towards the mat, trying to keep the body facing forward towards the end of the mat as well. The more the knee comes in towards that 90 position, the more of a stretch for the outside of the hips here. To intensify the stretch, you can reach this back leg longer and bringing yourself down onto your forearms is going to intensify that a bit more as well. It's a good kind of pain. Enjoy it. If you do have any issues with your knee, just be careful with this position. You might find that you want to have your knee bent in a little bit more rather than pressing towards that 90-degree angle. And really focusing on sitting into this hip here, almost like you want to push that hip away to really enhance the stretch. Let's stay here for 2 more breaths. 1 more. And coming back onto your hands, if you'd come down to your forearms, slowly walking that back leg in so you can unravel yourself here. And let's move into the other side. Bringing that knee in, foot comes towards the opposite hand, and then sitting back into that stretch here. You might also feel a bit of stretch through the front of the hip here. Again, if you want to intensify that, you can walk the leg back. Really focus on the hips being both down towards the mat, dropping down onto the forearms to intensify this stretch as well. So stretching through the outside of the hip. I also feel it around into the hamstring a little bit as well, depending where you're tight. Couple of big breaths. 1 more. Again, just unraveling yourself in your own time, being careful when you're coming back into this kneeling position. Let's just sit back on the heels. Hands down on the thighs. Let's have a big breath in and out. 1 more breath in and out. Well done. Give yourself a little bit of a clap. Thank you for joining me for this session today. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next time.